Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at some top teams for the Master League Premier Cup, which is starting later today. Last week I tried to make some teams for a completely new meta in the single type cup, and therefore I had to make some completely new teams based on no data usage whatsoever. So this time around we're going to take a look at some teams that I've either had success with in the past or that I've seen other people have success with in the past, and hopefully they're going to do well for you as well. I don't want to waste your time, so let's go straight into the first one. The first team is based around trying to get the most out of the newly buffed Haxorus with Breaking Swipe. Haxorus does well against the steel types, Snorlax and the other fighters, but it really struggles against dragons and fairies, so I think a double steel backline is a good thing to go for. If you face a bad lead, you want to swap into Metagross to try and lure out the Excadrill, which is potentially in the back so Magnezone doesn't have to see it. Also, if you face a dragon type on the lead, you want to try and leave the opposing counter swap, the Pokemon they counter swap onto Metagross, in farm range so that you can come out with a lot of energy on Haxorus to threaten the dragon type that's probably gonna come back in and face Haxorus. If everything goes wrong, you've hopefully lured out the Excadrill on the counter swap, and then you can try and set up Magnezone for the sweep, which Magnezone does quite well up energy or up shields. Against a Gyarados lead, you want to stay in and see what fast move they're running. If it's Dragon Breath, you want to swap into Metagross, although it's definitely not comfortable, but Haxorus can't really stay in. If it's Waterfall, you just stay in. That's a very good matchup for Haxorus. Against a Mudshot Garchomp, you can just stay in with Haxorus and win the 2 shields, coming out with a lot of HP. Against a Dragon Tail Garchomp, you just basically have to hope you don't see a lot of them. I don't really think you're going to, but it's a bit of a core breaker. Every team has a core breaker. The next team is a team that I've witnessed a few people have a lot of success with in the past. I have a friend who's only hit Legend once in his entire career of playing Pokemon Go, and he hit Legend using this team. He even got to 3100 ELO, if I remember correctly. Charm Primarina is going to be able to completely wall Gyarados, one of the most common Pokemon in the meta. It's also going to be able to win quite a few leads. If you lose the lead, you can swap in Shadow Snorlax, and then you're either going to lure out a lot of the times Dragonite or Haxorus, so Waterfall Gyarados is going to be able to have a lot of the play in the back. If they safe swap a Snorlax, I would recommend you stay in and do some charm damage, take one Body Slam, leave them at about half health before swapping in your own Snorlax. And also, an extra bonus, if you use Outrage on Shadow Snorlax or just regular Snorlax, you might be able to take Switch Advantage away from the counter swap the Dragonite, and Switch Advantage can be very huge with this team. The next team is a personal favorite of mine because it's the team I used to reach top 50 in the world for the very first time a couple of years ago in the classic format. I still think it works to this day. It's a pretty simple APB team. You use Shadow Snorlax to lure out a potential fighting type so Excadrill can sweep in the back. Excadrill, up shields or up energy, as long as it doesn't see a fighting type or a potential grind type like Garchomp, it's going to be able to put in so much work. I would also recommend having it as the best buddy, because then you can win CMPs against other Excadrills, which can be very important in this meta. Gyarados, very flexible lead. It only really loses to fairies and electric types, which you have 2 responses to in the back. Also important to have something good against Waterfall Gyarados or just a Waterfall user in general in the lead. The next team is very similar to the previous one. It's an APB team where you use Snorlax to lure out the fighting type so Magnezone doesn't have to see it. This team works better than the previous one if you're seeing a lot of water types, especially if you're seeing a lot of Gyarados and the safe swap, but it works a lot worse than the previous one if you're seeing a lot of Excadrill in the back, because Magnezone really hates Excadrill. You can also use Dragonite and Excadrill as a good core with Snorlax as well. That worked out very well for me for a while. And also on this team, if you save 2 shield for Magnezone, you will be able to beat Mamoswine and Dragonite, which might be the way to play it. The next team highlights one of the best cores in the meta in Florges and Garchomp. They both do very well neutral matchups. Florges beats the dragons, Garchomp beats the steels, so they cover each other very well. You do need to run the Mudshot variant of Garchomp on this team. And then we have the best safe swap in the meta in Shadow Snorlax on the safe swap. You can also use Golisopod if you just want to be spicy and you have all the resources in the world. Otherwise, I would not recommend making one. If everything goes wrong, you can try to set up Garchomp for a potential sweep, but it does better in the zero shields because it beats Haxorus and Dragonite in the zero shields, but if it takes too much fast move damage, it doesn't beat those in the 1s and 2s. So yeah, better in the zero shields. The next 2 teams are probably a bit more fun than anything. This used to be a very good team and a very common team, but because of the emergence of Florges, Ice and Electric, which are more common than they used to be, this team is not as common as it used to be. You use Gyarados with Waterfall in the lead because you need something to take care of the steel types. And then you have Dragonite and Togekiss in the back. Dragonite as a safe swap is not the most safe swap. And Togekiss, maybe not the best Pokemon either, but I felt like I had to include this because it was used to be so popular and it's a team that has been working very well in the past. Maybe you can make it work if you have these Pokemon available. I wouldn't recommend making a Togekiss if you haven't made one already though. The next team is just like the first team, trying to get the most out of the newly buffed Haxorus. This time as a closer. You need something on the lead which can deal with fairies and dragons, so I've gone with Metagross. I think it's the best option. And then you need something on the safe swap which can lure out the fairies / dragons, so I've gone with Conkeldurr, which can also deal either big damage to the fairies / dragons or grab a shield from them, and then we can deal with them with Metagross and set up Haxorus for a sweep. I think what might hold this team back is that you're gonna see too many teams that have 2 dragons / fairies, and Metagross is gonna have too much to do, and at the end Haxorus might just get overwhelmed because you haven't lured out both of the counters to it. But yeah, I think it might be a fun team. Maybe give it a go if you want to try out Haxorus. The final team is another very simple ABB team. You have Excadrill on the lead, which can deal with steals and most importantly fairies. Then you have Gyarados on the safe swap, which can lure out the fairies so Excadrill can deal with them, and so that Dragonite can sweep in the back. I would not recommend using this team at the beginning because I'm expecting that a lot of people are going to want to use the Haxorus because it's new. They just got the XL candy for it. And I think Haxorus is better on the lead, so I'm expecting a lot of people are going to use Haxorus on the lead. It's of course always very difficult to predict what is going to happen in the beginning of a new meta, but I think I would wait to try out this team for later on if I were you. Also, I forgot to add Waterfall Primarina as a core breaker to this team. It is a very big core breaker. If you run into one, you don't really have a response to it, unfortunately, but I'm expecting most Primarinas to run Charm, so I think this team will still work. I have once again partnered with Junko Sean to make this team graph you're seeing in front of you. You can find this plus another graph with 10 more team recommendations, plus a graph with all the relevant move counts on his Twitter, link in the description. I would definitely recommend following him because he makes these for every meta in GBL and it's super helpful. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck in the upcoming meta. If you like these types of videos, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time.